Comforted by her husband, Mrs. Bagwandine remembered her daughter as loving and bright, who was about to sit the SCA examinations and hoped to pass for Naparima Girls High School. Now, she says, they'll also remember Rachel as a hero, as in her last moments she cried out to her younger brother to run away, likely saving his life.
I tried to save she. But I see life leave my baby alone.
Cindy Raghuvatika Singh, TV6 News.
Up to news time, the dog remained locked away in a kennel at the home, as police still conducting inquiries and consulting their legal officers have not yet reached a decision on whether or not it would be put down. Joining us via Zoom is certified dog trainer Mark Chin Aliong. Mr. Aliong, we'll come back to him a little bit later on in this newscast. Let's go to our people meter. Tonight we're asking you, do you believe more needs to be done to prevent tragic incidents involving dangerous dogs? To vote, text yes or no to the number 7664886 or 7664TV6. We have the results for you at the end of this newscast. Effective immediately, members of the TTPS are to stop wearing balaclava face coverings as the TTPS attempts to bring the trend of criminals posing as police officers under control. This following at least 3 incidents over the past few weeks perpetrated by persons dressed in police-like uniforms. One as recent as last night. Vanessa Cutting reports.
Last night, a few police imposters came face to face with legitimate members of the TTPS after police officers on patrol had caused to intercept a suspicious vehicle.
An ERP unit on patrol saw these vehicles, Qashqai vehicles, and became suspicious, even where they were. Even though, and you know, I might be speculating a little bit, and they should forgive me if I cross that line, but I just want to create something in your mind's eye. Even though they might have approached the situation a little lackluster, it's maybe a little bit understandable because you might be saying, am I really confronting my own here or what? But they did confront them, and that's where the battle started. Okay? The victim basically said to them, these men just hold me up and run.
The suspects escaped. However, DCP Williams says the vehicle was recovered after it was abandoned, and investigations are ongoing. Investigations are also ongoing into at least 2 other recent incidents involving criminals dressed as police.
The investigations into these matters continue, and the issue as to whether uniforms used were issued by TTPS or what looks like it is ongoing, and we are exploring different leads and angles.
In the meantime, the TTPS has moved to make it easier for the public to identify legitimate police officers.
As of today, police officers will not be using balaclava, which is that covering which basically covers, as we have seen some with the head and mouth and nose and just the eyes out. We have found that in several of the instances that you referred to, the perpetrators were so covered.
The TTPS is also advising the public that parties of officers will include at least one officer wearing the grey and blue uniform, so as to make it easier to identify the legitimate police. Members of the public are urged to cooperate with police officers in the execution of their duties.
In the event that an operation is taking place to arrest someone who may be in premises, in some instances police may take a search warrant, but the fact that you have a warrant to arrest allows you to go into the premises and arrest the person without a search warrant. If you are going to execute a search warrant, it would be necessary to have the warrant with you and to read that warrant out to the occupiers of the premises. That's the procedure.
Officers should also have their IDs and badges visibly displayed. But the TTPS is asking the public to understand that there will be occasions where they will not use marked vehicles.
Sometimes it's required to get into a particular space incognito to carry out whatever operation that you have to carry out. So you will have some of that.
Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
Ahead in the TV6 News, the media fraternity mourns the loss of veteran broadcaster David Alcock, who passed away today at the age of 78. We have that story and more after the break.
Failure is only ever final if you choose to not try again. And we're here to help make that difficult journey feel less lonely. Apply now to the Yupreneur Plus Startup Accelerator. Yupreneur. Imagine where you can go.
To strengthen your immune system, you need to nourish your body with foods rich in antioxidants. Exercise regularly and build your immunity with supportive nutrients. That's why the experts at Jameson created products for immune support made with pure ingredients. For 100 years, Jameson has helped take care of you and your family. At Jameson, your wellness will always be our goal. Jameson, here for your health. You can stay connected with the TV6 News on Facebook via the handle CCMTV6 Trinidad and Tobago, on Twitter via @TV6TMT, on Instagram via #TV6TMT, and of course via our website, TV6TMT.com.
The Children's Authority is tasked with treating with trauma in children. According to the entity, if left unresolved, this can lead to serious future problems. Authority is seeking to bring more awareness to the importance of rehabilitation and breaking the cycle of trauma. Alice Boucher has the story from Morning Edition.
Trauma is a state where an incident supersedes a person's ability to cope, so says Assessment Manager at the Children's Authority, Vandana Siusanka Ali, who indicates that someone's personality and support system are influential factors. But overall, she says, trauma is not a respecter of persons.
All of us face trauma in some way or the other, and it is not just for the weak. You know, sometimes that's a myth. Some people feel like I'm strong, I can cope, and so that doesn't bother me. But we all suffer from trauma in some way or the other, and it's very important to make sure that we treat with our trauma so that it can be resolved and it doesn't determine our actions in the future.
In terms of the signs of spotting trauma, she says, it has a mental and social impact and can be identified through certain traits.
So you might find that a person might become easily triggered, they may become violent or aggressive, or just very argumentative and oppositional. Some persons on the more severe angle, they may find themselves experiencing depression, anxiety, anger issues, irritability issues. In terms of children, adolescents, even adults, you might find yourselves having difficulty concentrating, falling back in terms of academic performance, work performance.
She says, people sometimes engage in unhealthy coping mechanisms such as substance abuse, promiscuity, and
just very argumentative and oppositional. Some persons on the more severe angle, they may find themselves experiencing depression, anxiety, anger issues, irritability issues. In terms of children, adolescents, even adults, you might find yourselves having difficulty concentrating, falling back in terms of academic performance, work performance.
She says, people sometimes engage in unhealthy coping mechanisms such as substance abuse, promiscuity, and toxic relationships as a way to dull the pain trauma can cause. Siusanka Ali says rehabilitation is the answer.
Children and adults, if we're talking about rehabilitation, we're talking about getting that emotional support to help you process that trauma and really confront the thoughts and the feelings that may have resulted as a result of that traumatic incident, and really going by and processing it thoroughly, looking at the different ways in which our responses resulted and helping to find healthier ways of coping.
While having a good social support circle like family or friends can work for some people, she says for others it may require intervention through therapy. Without this, Siusanka Ali indicates that chronic mental health diseases can develop. The Children's Authority provides assistance in getting therapeutic intervention for children. However, she believes people need to be more sensitized to identifying trauma signs, including behavioral changes.
When we intervene from an early stage, you basically put that child on the road to success. You give them a fighting chance, and you really build upon that innate resilience that children have. So you give them an opportunity now. You don't have the unprocessed trauma and the complicated grief and all of these issues now.
For more information, you can call 627-0748, 623-7555, or 625-7151. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
Police are investigating an alleged firebombing incident at an apartment complex in Diego Martin. At least 4 cars have been destroyed by fire. This happened just a stone's throw away from the Four Roads police station.
Police and fire officers were called to the HDC's Shakonia Crescent apartment complex in Diego Martin early Thursday morning, as at least 4 cars were set on fire.
This morning, my husband filed with that our car is on fire. When we came downstairs, my husband had it already on fire. Well, we didn't do anybody anything. We didn't see anything. We normal. Is that I can't understand why it is.
TV6 News understands the incident stems from a dispute between 2 tenants. One resident tells us it is not the first time this has happened.
This is the second time this vehicle was firebombed. Actually, last year I was able to extinguish it, and we were still able to get to use it a bit. We were afraid to actually purchase a new vehicle because certain things wasn't put in place.
According to some of the tenants, the man accused of setting the cars on fire has a history of being a real nuisance in the community.
Now, everybody is on edge because we don't know what to expect after the last events of last night.
Philip says a number of reports have been made to police about the man being described as a sort of community bully. TV6 News understands police detained 2 tenants in connection with Thursday's incident. However, the victims of the fire are now left counting their losses.
My children's school bag, everything. I had $2,000 in the car just to go and buy the rest of the school stuff. Everything done with it now.
Ansel Gibbs, TV6 News.
In anticipation of the government's upcoming fiscal plan, the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers is calling for further incentives for the SME sector. The CRBC is also concerned that if measures aren't taken to reduce inflation, it would spell trouble for the economy. Alicia Boucher has the details from Morning Edition.
Chairman of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers, Vivek Charan, fears that if inflation continues as is, the country would enter a recession. He says while there is some economic growth being experienced, he is attributing this to higher energy prices brought on by the Russia-Ukraine war. And in his words, TNT isn't there yet, not because of policy, but because of Putin.
Outside of the energy sector, we're not seeing that level of growth, we're not seeing that level of commercial activity in the private sector. So the private sector, when we look at things like exports, our exports really climbing. When we look at things as within the SME sector, is the SME sector really growing? And the answer to that is no. The primary concern is the fact that inflation can lead inexorably to a recession. Do we want to return to a recession?
Charan says with shipping costs sky high and travel for business to China subjected to COVID-19 quarantine measures among other obstacles, the CRBC is calling on the government to consider duty reform.
So if it is that incomes of individuals and incomes of workers can't increase, and it's very difficult to increase that at the moment, and the level of commercial activity within the private sector has not peaked or is not growing, then the only other thing we can do, if we can't control the inflationary pressures on the outside, is how do we make things affordable on the inside? And what can we do on the inside? The only thing I can see that is left is, let us look at the duty structure and temporarily, over a period of time, let us create create a valve to let off some of that steam with all that inflationary pressure that is being built up on the inside.
CRBC coordinator Jaishi Malila Dar Singh says small and medium enterprises seriously need some relief, especially especially now that the country is earning more revenue from energy prices.
I certainly believe that the government could look at the whole issue of taxation regarding the SMEs, and government need to present some type of relief to the SMEs if they are continuing their operations or expanding it, more or less expanding their operations, because they are very burdened by these taxation payments. You have to make your statutory payments. That is critical. But they are very much burdened by these tax payments, and maybe a very small window of a tax holiday can work at this particular point in time.
The CRBC is suggesting boosting the construction sector. Lil Dar Singh says there is a large labor pool, and once they are given more spending power, it would augur well for economic confidence building. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
Ahead of the TV6 News, no parking along the Independence Day parade route, says the TTPS, as wrecking will be enforced on the holiday. This is the TV6 News. Keep it here.
I remember all the first. Granny helping me write first car. My best friend and I planning our first business. The moment we took our vows. The moment we expanded our home. And now we're expanding our family. I know that whatever the future holds, we'll be ready.
Your life is your story. Let's help you write it on your terms.
Public Bank, we're the one for you.
Are you having sore throat, fever, coughing, headache, or runny nose? Take Cetamol Cold and Flu day or night. Ask your pharmacist for Cetamol Cold and Flu and get back to the happier you.
It's powerful, it's fast, it's my type.
Bring it on! The 60 is exciting. It sounds like boom blast.
It's going to be a game pro strategy for our fast-paced, very fast, action-packed, bring your A game.
Great for the viewer.
I'll be waiting.
People are going to come out swinging from the go. Come on, what more can Caribbean people ask for?
See you in St. Kitts for Cricket's Power Game.
I cannot wait for it to start.
Get your news anywhere, anytime with the Trinidad Express e-paper. It's easy, affordable, and comes with bonus video features. Subscribe through the Android and iOS Play Store or visit digital.trinidadexpress.com today.
What a fantastic combination of flavors, right? Is that lemon? Is that chili? Is that a dream? Yes, we know. You weren't expecting all this flavor. And they weren't expecting those moves either. That was bold. The new KFC Chili Lemon Chicken. The unexpected combination of flavors that unleashes your boldest self.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Health this afternoon reported 6 more COVID-related deaths. These people were 3 elderly males and 1 elderly female and 2 middle-aged females. 5 persons had multiple comorbidities. The 6 had 1 comorbidity. The death toll now stands at 4,119. The Ministry of Health has also reported there are 241 new positive cases, taking the total number of active positive cases to 6,418. After a 2-year hiatus, the Independence Day parade will be back in full force and members of the public can expect a spectacular showing. This from the TTPS, which is also advising members of the public coming into the capital city that their cars will be wrecked if they park along the parade route. Vanessa Cutting has the details.
Members of the public attending the celebrations of TNT's 60th anniversary of independence can expect what the TTPS has termed a momentous display starting at 7:30 a.m. sharp.
There would be a special mixed unit doing a special drill. They would be using retro uniforms. As a mark of the significance of 60 years, they're going back in time and bringing out some of the uniforms that were used by divisions of national security in the past.
A special guest will also be in attendance.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica would be joining us for the actual day's events. He'd be here before. And that's Andrew Holness of Jamaica. And he will operation.
The TTPS is advising that full safety and security protocols will be in effect.
If you see something that is suspicious, if you see something within that space, anything at all, you report it to the officers in those quadrants or sectors there. Anybody going into the grandstand will be required to subject themselves to being scanned for weapons, and persons who are firearm holders, users of firearms, who have a firearm users license, they will be required to lodge same.
Members of the public are also reminded that Port of Spain remains a no-fly zone.
And so on the Day of Independence, that would be enforced, that persons need to know that they would not be permitted to fly drones in Port of Spain, except they are exempted.
And while it is understood that many persons may want to come out for the celebrations after the 2-year hiatus, the TTPS is advising motorists to park their vehicles responsibly.
Wreckers will be employed to remove any vehicles illegally, contrary to the legal notice that is parked, and that is posing a hindrance anywhere within the parade area and precincts that we need to get moved. Queen's Park West between Queen's Park East and Cipriani Boulevard, Chancery Lane between Gordon Street and Queen's Park West, Deer Street, Albion Street.
Members of the public can access the parade route and full list of traffic restrictions via the TTPS's social media pages. Vanessa Cutting, TV6 News.
And you should note that if you wish to view the proceedings from the grandstand, you will have to secure a ticket to do so. The Ministry of National Security is advising that a total of 1,500 seats will be available in the east and west wings of the Queen's Park Savannah to view the parade. Desirous members of the public should visit the defence section of the Ministry of National Security, located at 3133 Abercrombie Street in Port of Spain, between the hours of 9 and 3 p.m. Collection of tickets will close off at 3 p.m. on Monday, August 29th. Well, returning to a follow-up on an earlier story, joining us via Zoom is certified dog trainer Roger Barkley. Good evening, Mr. Barkley, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening to Nadisha and to your viewers across Trinidad.
Mr. Barkley, what are your thoughts following this tragic incident in San Fernando that has left an 11-year-old girl dead?
Well, it is indeed tragic, and let me, of course, give my condolences to the family of young Rachel Bagwandine. No words can really express, how that mother and that family will be feeling today, and we can only pray that they will eventually cope with this matter.
What advice would you give to dog lovers, particularly those who have children or children nearby?
Well, first of all, when you're going to bring a dog into your social setting, your family circle, your community, you should be mindful of the breed of the dog that you're going to get and the nature of that breed. And then in your own setting, you have to ensure that you can, bring this dog into the setting where there's going to be some kind of harmony, and that whatever activities and your general lifestyle, that dog can fit into that lifestyle that you have, and not pose a danger to your family or to the society as a whole, the public as a whole.
How long do you think a process like that will take?
Well, with proper training and if you get in touch with the right people, it's not a difficult process, but it requires informed decision making about the type of dog. You have to think that the dog will not remain a puppy, that it will grow to be a large animal. You have to know the breed that you're getting involved with and the characteristics of these breeds, the different drives and the nature of these breeds. And with the right training, it is not a difficult process at all. This is why we must advocate for getting in touch with proper trainers and having your dog trained and making sure your dog is sociable in the environments that you have them in. Notwithstanding, most people tend to get dogs for personal protection or property protection. The fallout from that is that I imagine because of crime and so on,
the fallout from that is people are just choosing dogs, choosing breeds, thinking that they're going to be protecting their property and not necessarily thinking of the consequences of these dogs if they, have situations like what occurred today. Very unfortunate.
One of the things that was mentioned in the report was that the dog's temperament had changed recently. Now, if a dog owner notices something like that, what should they do?
Well, of course, it is possible that may happen, but it is most likely that what had happened is part of the nature of the dog. My understanding from what I have seen is that the dog is of a breed that generally comes originally from fighting breeds and so on. And while many of them of that type can be very social, can be very docile at times, remember there is this fighting instinct. And we don't know what may be the triggers to create a scenario like this. So that, again, it comes from education. The owner has to know what are the triggers, and the owner must take extra steps to create whatever redundancies in terms of securing the dog and the property, ensuring that this dog must not easily get out of its enclosure or within the compound. There must be some additional situations that will prevent such occurrences from happening.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Berkeley, for taking the time to speak with us and sharing your expertise with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, this is the TV6 News. We'll be right back.
Love the feeling of sand between your toes? Transport your mind there with the Beat White Sand Beaches Air Freshener. Relive your best memories of the beach from the comfort of your home with Beat for a happy, healthy home.
I love the look and smell of litter. From this huge pile, I can see that many people also find it attractive.
Yes, Charlie. Litter is indeed attractive. It attracts roaches, flies and mosquitoes, and rats.
My pets.
Don't be a litterbug, Charlie. Do the right thing. Don't litter.
Custom-made blinds and shades from Mega Traders, serving TNT for over 25 years. Our blinds will help you get privacy and safety in your home. Get sun protection, controlled light that gives TV glare and bleaching of your furniture and carpet. Increased insulation and cut down on your energy costs. And don't forget, your blinds will beautify your home. Create your dream home at affordable prices. Visit our beautiful showroom at 81 Superior Street, San Fernando, or call us at 652-4438 for an estimate. Always remember the 12th Man Season 3, Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV6, on the record-breaking sports football show. In addition to Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Champions League, 12th Man has a World Cup 2022 surprise like none other. The #1 sports show on TV with Andre Errol Batiste will always remember you.
Art appreciation at the airport as the Glen Rupchan reproductions of Carlisle Chang's artistic works, Inherent Nobility of Man, were unveiled at Piarco International Airport on Thursday evening. Speaking at the unveiling, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley hailed the work of local artists.
That we are 60 years young, because 60 years is a young nation, but we are old enough to have put our imprint on the world of quality art where the people are represented by their own people. And I think that's what this represents.
This comes as Trinidad and Tobago celebrates 60 years of independence, and part of the celebrations involves combining art and patriotism. So next time you're in the airport, have a look at the art that's 100% local.
Whenever something happens to us that is not the best, and some people's comment is, is Trinidad a real place? The answer is yes. Only a real place can produce this. And if you go through the exhibition that's on display in Queen's Park West, and you will get the proof, further proof, that we are not only a real place, but we are a place where most of the world would like to live.
Changes came with the weather today. Joining us for a look at what's going on and what's to come is Sigourney in tonight's weather report.
The following is brought to you by Tattle, where people are people.
All right, well, we've got some wickedly wet weather moving across the islands at this time. All of this with the passage of a tropical wave that is now well north and west of our islands in particular, pushing into the Caribbean Sea. So for Trinidad and Tobago within the last couple of hours, hey, I mean, we woke up with sunshine. It was wickedly warm at first before it became wickedly wet across our island. And into the afternoon period, we started to see thunderstorms and heavy showers developing across parts of Tobago and then moving across western areas and even southern areas of Trinidad, bringing in flooding across a few isolated areas, mostly residential and street flooding, impacting parts of the island, and then pushing over into the Gulf of Paria. For the rest of the evening, we'll start to see some settling down in our forecast. Overall, though, it's still cloudy out there, so we are still anticipating 1 or 2 odd showers as the evening progresses, and then it will all taper off as we approach midnight before we hit the pre-dawn period and isolated showery activity picks back up again. So you really want to be mindful as to what's happening in your forecast into this overnight period. We do have some settling down, but then showers tomorrow morning. So all you early morning commuters, umbrellas on hand. Temperature-wise, it's nice and cool this evening. Lows dip down to 24 degrees in Tobago, 23 degrees if you are in Trinidad. Now, let's push it to tomorrow's forecast. With this tropical wave well out of our area, we're still looking out for lingering moisture behind this wave, and it is an area of interest according to the National Hurricane Center as it pushes into the Caribbean Sea. So we're seeing that here. Still have a bit of moisture and instability in the atmosphere that's present. So into Friday's forecast, we are looking out for a mixture of sunshine, yet again with cloudiness. So across Trinidad and Tobago, though predominantly sunny into the early morning period, by mid-afternoon, guess what's going to happen, everyone? We start to hear the rumbling of thunder yet again, and we'll start to see those clouds developing, getting a little bit darker within isolated areas, and producing those showers, those heavier downpours at times, and isolated thunderstorms, most of which will be accompanied by lightning or electrical discharges, and again, that rocking thunder that you've been experiencing all week long. We get more of that into Friday's forecast, with temperatures still ranging at around a humid 32 degrees in Trinidad, Tobago coming in equally warm at 31 degrees. Again, where we have those periods of heavy downpours and isolated thunderstorm action, gusty winds, localized streets or flash flooding is likely. So be mindful as to what's happening in your forecast. Pay attention when you're commuting and conducting your daily activities.
The proceeding was brought to you by Tattle, where people are people.
Multivitamins give you more vitamins and minerals than leading brands. Plus, delivers a full complex of B vitamins to help convert food into energy. So every day, you're alive and thriving.
Plumbing problems? Don't guess. Call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646. Proud to be serving Trinidad and Tobago for over 20 years. We do it all. Maintenance and repairs, new construction, sewer lines, inspection, drain cleaning, leak detection. We are licensed and insured, so call Plumbing Solutions at 628-4646.
Express newspapers, we're always holding power to account, safeguarding your interests, and giving you a voice. In a thriving democracy, it's our role, and we take it seriously. The Express, the national newspaper of Trinidad and Tobago.
The initiative is much needed after the hectic past 3 years that we had over the pandemic, to get back the youths and get back to some form of activity.
Veteran broadcaster David Alcock has died. TV6 News understands 78-year-old Mr. Alcock died at around 1:30 p.m. today in the United States, where he had been living for the past 25 years. In the 1970s through to the 80s, Mr. Alcock was one of the most popular voices on the airwaves with his program, David Alcock in the Morning.
David Alcock in the morning.
He is also known for his happy and joyful disposition and impersonations. So we're joined tonight on the line now by another veteran broadcaster, David Alcock, who also lives in the US. Good evening, Mr. Alcock.
Hi, good evening, Scotty. Pleasure to be here with you this evening. Thank you for having me.
You would have worked with Mr. Alcock during your very early days in radio. How do you remember him?
Man, for many, many years. In fact, Dave was the one who gave me my nickname, the Bruce. I did the morning show. That first bit that you played there, David Alcock in the morning, that was a friend of mine from Jamaica, and Wilma. And it became something of a signature part of the morning show. But we had fun. We had years of fun. We had a lot of laughs. I learned a lot from David Alcock. He was a true professional, and he was a true big brother to all of us. We got chewed out when we weren't on time. Back in those days of radio, everything had to be on the nose, on cue. We did not have what many have today to make it easier. And Dave was a very challenging guy. He had so many characters, and we had a lot to deal with. But ultimately, he was a consummate professional. He took his craft with pride, and he was not. He did not keep things to himself. He taught many, many of us.
What do you see as being his most significant contribution to the progression of the media industry?
Oh, Dave's passion for playing local music, and of course, the morning show. You know, Dave Alcock in the morning. Recently, Dave was he was a very private guy, and only a few of us were allowed to be there with him. He's been through a lot. His meds started getting mixed up and started conflicting with his condition. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but when he left us, he did not know, couldn't recognize us anymore. It was that, it was at that point. And so, he is in a better place now. But I think it was his passion for local music and his passion for professional radio. He embraced broadcasters from all over the Caribbean. He had friends everywhere, big finance in Barbados. I mean, Dave was family to everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Alcock, for joining us tonight to share your memories of the late Mr. Alcock.
You you very, very welcome. Rest in peace, Big Brother's Day. Thank you.
A different kind of news now. Yet another robbery in Tobago, this time on Wednesday at the Skewers Middle Eastern Grill in Argyle, Tobago. The establishment was robbed by a lone gunman. Elizabeth Williams has more in this report.
The incident occurred at around 9:15 p.m. on Wednesday, when a lone gunman dressed in a blue jumpsuit accosted a cashier at the Skewers Middle Eastern Grill located in Argyle. The cashier, who was outside the compound at the time throwing away garbage, was ordered inside and told to open the cash register. The cash was given to the man, who later made his escape on foot. This is yet in a series of robberies in Tobago, which started in Tobago West and have now spread to the eastern side of Tobago. The scene was visited by members of the CID, and the PC Dennis is continuing investigations. Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News.
The body found floating in waters off Swallows Beach at around 12 noon on Wednesday has been identified as Friedhelm 984 of Germany. He was vacationing with family members on a yacht which was docked approximately 200 meters from the shore at Swallows Beach, Pigeon Point Road, when he left the yacht and took a swim. Mr. Nye was pulled out of the water after being spotted by a man who was seated in his car nearby. His body was brought to shore by two men. An autopsy is to be performed to determine the cause of death. It's now time for sport.
Alright, I've got the good, the bad, and some other news as well to come in sport. As the Trinidad Night Riders men lose their opening match of the 60 competition to Barbados. Well, the women, well, they win. 3x3 basketball seems to bounce back after opening losses. And Lewandowski and Erling Haaland to meet their former teams as the Champions League draw takes place. I'll bring you all the deets.